Thank you so much for joining me for an episode of Real Talk. I am excited to have my guest with me today. We have had some challenges with getting this interview, and we are excited to set the record straight. So I have DMarie here with me. We actually got connected on Clubhouse, and I'm excited to dive into so many different topics. I mean, I can't even begin to list out all the things that she is doing and just the insights that she has given to me in the short time that I have got the opportunity to get to know her better. So I'm excited to have her here with us today. She is a author, and that book is going to be coming out soon, as well as a number of other things that we will get into shortly. But before we do that, I want to give DMarie the opportunity to introduce herself. So, hey, Dee.
Hey, how are you, Michelle?
I
I'm
am
glad to
good.
be here today, finally.
Yes. Technology sometimes is not our friend, but we just keep it moving and do what we can.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Hmm.
So,
So,
yes, my name is DMarie. I am a
mhm.
self published author and poet. I am also a registered nurse with some 25 plus years experience in the field of psychiatric nursing. So that means that I am passionate about mental health and mental wellness. Most recently, I became the CEO of Shy House Consulting LLC. And the first project that we undertook was the rehabbing of a single family home that turned out to be a phenomenal, unbelievable experience. We're writing a book about that. We will have webinars that go along with it for training and teaching purposes. But in addition to that, I have a book that will be debuting on Amazon on October 4th. So, of course, I'm excited about that. And I'm just delighted to be here today with Lachelle. She is someone that motivates me. Anybody that starts out saying I'm a mother of 13 kids, I have to take my hat off and say, wow. So, yes, thank you, Lachelle.
Oh, well, thank you for having me. And you had me with the mental wellness. I love that. That is something that I'm very passionate about, but also the fact that you said that you are taking this project and documenting it into a book to be able to teach other people. And I think that's phenomenal because a lot of times we have this information that we don't understand the value of it. We go on and we just do all these different things, and we just don't realize how we can monetize from it, how we can help other people. So, talk to us about how that project even started, because I think that is definitely a rarity to come out of the gate understanding the value of what it is that you're doing.
Well, I will have to give a huge amount of credit to God. And I'm
Amen.
not someone who has a Bible in one hand and a candle in the other and going around the community trying to convert people. But
Hmm.
God has been in my life my entire life.
Hmm.
And my business partner and I had been researching rehabbing for years. We just never had found the house that we wanted to rehab. And
Hmm.
as I say, God led us one Sunday evening. We were out doing what's called driving for dollars. And when
Hmm.
you drive for dollars, you're looking for the ugliest house in the best neighborhood because you know that
Mm.
once you rehab that property and have it looking as good as every other house in the neighborhood, you stand to make a profit. So that's what we
Mhm.
were doing. We were out driving for dollars when this house was virtually or literally placed in our laps by God because it was, oh my goodness, it was a godsend. It really
Mhm.
was.
Mhm.
The house was an all brick house. It was a ranch style house. And since I said we had been studying about rehabbing for probably some 5 to 7 years, actually, going
Mhm.
to seminars, reading books and manuals and all kinds of stuff, we joined, I'm in Tennessee, so we joined the Tennessee Realtors Association,
Mhm.
where investors would meet and talk about how to do whatever. We had gone on guided tours of other people's properties in various stages of rehabbing. So we had some basic working knowledge of what it entails to do a project of your own.
Mhm. Wow. And I love that. So this actually your first project that you took on, or you had other ones during this
It
process?
was our very first project.
I
The
love that.
reason why we had not undertaken another project, number one, I was working at the time, but when
Mhm.
this house came to us, I had retired from nursing because of COVID. I decided that with the number of years that I had served in nursing, the most expedient thing for me, since the elderly were being diagnosed as probably having a more severe outcome with COVID, I thought, no, my best bet is to go home and find something else to do. And this house came by. At that point, we found the house when I had decided that I would not be working as a nurse. I knew I needed something else to do, and this was perfect. And yes, it was our first project because I didn't see myself being able to work a full-time job and rehab a house. And I was absolutely right
Mhm.
about that.
That is awesome. I mean, so for me, the first thing I'm thinking is the ability to be patient and this delayed gratification. This day and age, we just don't have a lot of that. Everybody is, hey, let me take this course. Next week I'm going to be making six figures. I'm going to get this property and I'm going to flip my money and make, millions in 30 days. So, I think the first question is, how were you able to have that patience and ability to wait for the right time?
It was not as much as a matter of having patience because of all the information that we had gathered and all the things that we had learned. The dollars had to make sense. The computation of the dollars had to make
Mm,
sense. We had to find a property that offered us a return on our investment that was going to be good enough for us to spend the time doing what we had to do to make it work. And then the other
mm,
really phenomenal thing that happened is the advice that we had learned when you're driving for dollars is you speak to anybody in the neighborhood that might be walking by the house or might know something about the house. We lucked out, and the next door neighbors across the street were at
mhm,
home. I rolled down the window and started this huge conversation saying, tell me about that house. Well, as it turns out, this lady knew everything about the house, the owners that had abandoned the house, everything. She was able to tell us everything.
mm,
And looking at the structure of the house, it was all brick, which was huge.
mhm,
The roof looked okay. And over the years, we had learned how to assess the property. That's the first thing. We
mhm,
knew what we were looking at. We knew that the potential was there. There were no broken out windows. It was just a very sound looking investment. But we knew
mhm,
we had to get in to really look at the nuts and bolts on the inside and get a closer look. So we were able to get the information from this neighbor as to how to contact the owner. We did that. And because of my experience in psychiatric services, I
mhm,
had to use every skill that I possessed in order to speak with her on a personal level and not be insulting, but to win her over because of the fact that I knew that she was in a very difficult situation that had happened with her house. And I wanted to be
mhm.
sensitive to that. So God was just there on every level. He really was.
That is awesome. I mean, I'm just still blown away with the level of discipline to be willing to wait and to find out all the research. I mean, the scripture that comes to mind for me is study to show thyself approved, a workman need not be ashamed. But when you're dealing with business and you have a partner and you've got all these things going on with life, a lot of times the temporary things kind of rise up and become priorities more so than the long-term vision. So I think, how did you have that self-control, or I don't even know what to call it, to just be able to wait for the numbers to make sense and know when is enough research, because for some people they're like, look, you said you were doing this 5 years ago. You
Right.
still are studying,
Yes.
girl. You need to get
Yes.
to taking action. You're just
Exactly.
acquiring information. So how did that happen like that?
I don't have the answer for that. All I can tell you is that God did something that I was not able to do myself. Had he
Mhm,
not led us to this house, I still would not have rehabbed the house. The house was
mhm.
5 minutes from where I live. So when I had to go there
Mm,
and supervise the crew, it was just a cakewalk. I just drove 5 minutes from home and there I was.
Mm,
And I have to attribute all of that to God. So we don't understand his reasoning and his timing. I don't. It just,
mhm,
it happened at a time when I had set aside some funds for something else, but I was able to tap into that and use it to pay for the cost to rehab the property.
mm.
There were challenges from day one. Okay. We removed 6 dumpsters of debris from that house because the family had
Mm,
been hoarders, is what it appeared like. Just
mm,
left everything in the house. So it was not a cakewalk by any means, but by
mhm,
being obedient and having already studied how to do what we did, we had a
mm,
fair knowledge. My business partner, on the other hand, was able to find us a real estate coach from Clubhouse, by just to say
mm,
how great Clubhouse is. We got someone from Clubhouse who helped walk us through the paperwork and all of that. But at the end, he said he had never had 2 people, especially women, to do what we did in terms of being able to follow his instructions. He said most people will not step out and do all the things that you all did. But what he didn't
amen.
understand is we had learned all this stuff. We just didn't know how to pull it together. And
Yeah.
he pulled it together. So it was just a matter of doing what we knew to do.
I love this because, okay, you talk about Clubhouse and then you talk about your due diligence. So, how do you, what advice would you give somebody on knowing the difference between when to take action? Because, as we are more seasoned, is the word I would say, or mature, we can get kind of stuck in our ways and how we do things. But, you've got this new app, Clubhouse, that for some people they're like, you're doing all this stuff with people you can see. How are you trusting somebody you can't see with this new platform? How do you get on it? That type of thing. So how did you marry those two things?
Well, it was not easy. And we did not personally know this person that became our coach, who, by the way, was all the way up in Rhode Island. We were
Mm,
dealing with another person who was in Irvine, California. And
mm-hmm,
between those two, they walked us through this process. We didn't know
mm,
them. We had met them on Clubhouse, but we started with contracts. We started with
mm,
contracts
mm-hmm,
that spelled out what we expected from you and how
mm-hmm,
this delivery of service was going to go. If you
mm-hmm.
deviated from that, we didn't pay you a dime more than what we'd already paid. And we paid the person in increments and not everything up front. Because until
Mm,
you demonstrate that what you're saying is what you're going to do, it would not have been prudent for us to just go and throw a lot of money at somebody. I've never
amen.
been that kind of person. But
Mm-hmm.
by finding someone who was able to walk us through the process and help us with the paperwork and all that, it turned out to be just an unreal experience. It really did.
That is phenomenal. I mean, hats off to you guys.
Thank you.
Literally and figuratively. Okay. So
Right.
talk to us about this beautiful hat you have on. How
Oh
is
my
this,
goodness.
yeah, a part of what you've got going on?
This hat is part of the romance novel that I've written
Mm-hmm,
entitled Glass Heart Forever Yours. And it's not
mm-hmm,
part of it per se, but the
mm-hmm,
romance novel is set against the backdrop of the Kentucky Derby. And
mm-hmm,
on the first Saturday in May every year that I can recall,
mm-hmm,
the best thoroughbreds that can be found anywhere
mm-hmm,
assemble to complete a 2 minute race, a 2 minute race at Churchill Downs in Louisville, Kentucky. And one of the fascinating things about that Saturday is that the women show up adorned in the most grandiose. This is a modified version of what they wear because their hats normally will be everywhere. I mean, in their face, everywhere.
mm-hmm.
So I thought I'm not that grandiose person, but I can do a modified version to talk about the book. I wrote the book in a way that it's set against the backdrop of the Kentucky Derby. I go into detail about a lot of the history of the Derby and how it came to be what it is. But this woman who has been the victim of domestic violence in her first
Mm-hmm.
marriage decides to go to the Derby for the first time by herself. And she gets in her SUV, goes to the Derby, and she's determined to see one of the horses up close and personal before she makes her bid. Now, mind you, I have merged together authentic, real information with
Mm-hmm.
with hypothetical people that are just going around doing all kinds of things in Louisville and Nashville.
Mm-hmm.
So she goes in the back area to get a chance to see one of the horses and startles a man that has a red handkerchief hanging out of his pocket, and he's in a big straw hat, and he drops a bale of some kind of solution.
Mm-hmm.
She jumps in order to not get wet from the solution and falls in his arms. And ergo the story.
I love that. I love that. That is really, really exciting. So, I mean, time just flies. I'm loving everything that you're sharing, and this has just been phenomenal. So, tell everybody the best way that they can get a copy of this book and get a hold of you.
The best way to reach me is to go to my website. It's DMarieShyKing.com.
Mm-hmm.
There is a space where you can go and put the book in your shopping cart and go ahead and order it. The book will debut for, well, it will launch on October 4th. It will go to Amazon at that time, but you can make the purchases as soon as you'd like. And right now, the book is discounted to $2.99. It will be $15.99 once we complete the pre-launch, but it's $2.99 at this point. So if you will go to my website, you can purchase it online today.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Dee, for your time. I have just really enjoyed this conversation, and I'm even more inspired seeing how you are just so insightful about the things that you're doing and the impact that you're making in the world. So, what final thoughts would you like to leave with the audience today?
I have a saying that I just absolutely adhere to, and God has laid it up on my heart. If doors close against you, God will open a window and give you the wings to fly. And when you get your wings, you should soar with the eagles. And that is what I try to do.
I love that. I love that. Let's get to soaring, girl. I love it. So thank you so much again for your time. And we want to thank you guys for watching. I have not even really been able to look at the comments, y'all, because I have just been so intrigued by this conversation. But if you guys have any comments, feel free to keep putting them in there. I'm sorry, I was just really into the conversation. And if you have any questions, put them in the comments as well. We'll make sure that Marie gets it. And then lastly, $2.99. Who doesn't have $2.99? Y'all get on that website and support DMarie and what she's doing, because this is phenomenal. We are just really excited to have heard part of her story, and I'm sure there is more to come with some of these products and things that she is offering for everybody. So thanks again, you guys, for taking out special time for us. And while you're at it, share this video. That doesn't cost a thing. Share it with someone who may be inspired to realize that we all have a purpose and we all could use the gifts that we have to do just that and impact the world. So thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you all on the next episode. Bye for now.